sessions on your chat or QA. Our panel will try to answer each and every questions. So rather than putting in the chat, please put your questions on QA sessions. So it will be easy for all of us to track all your questions. So let me introduce. Today we have Mr. Ramachandran, Vice President Wipro. So he is having almost 25 years of experience driving transformation at Dell and helping customers in accelerating enterprise cloud journey. He brings in deep expertise in management, sales, and leadership experience with proven track of successful building business cases in client goals. So welcome, Ramachandra sir.
Thank you, Shubhadeep.
Today we have another great speaker, Mr. Mohan Kumar, who is the practice head Wipro. He is having almost 15 years plus experience in Wipro for driving this initiative. Today we have Mr. Lokesh, who heading the South Asia as AWS Academy. So over to Lokesh sir for starting the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhajit. I'm going to start my presentation. Just let me know when you can view my screen. I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir, it's fine.
So, good morning, students, faculty, and our esteemed, guest, Mr. Ramchandran, Mr. Mohan, and Mr. Shripad, and my colleague Abhiroop and Shubhajit. So, I'm going to begin by, just talking about the pandemic has impacted all of us. And in fact, what you'll realize is that, there is a big change overall which is happening due to this. First of all, the workforce which is now the organized workforce has become what is called a distributed workforce. So almost from 20% remote, we have gone to about 70% online. That's the number one part. The second part is that from a traditional organizational structure, we have moved from silos and lines to basically, networks and teamwork. The third is that just in time has changed to just in case. But one critical element which, all of us have realized is the fact that, do we have the requisite skill sets to match up specifically to this new pandemic? And what I wanted to share with you is specifically the fact that in India, if you look at it, the slide that you see in front of you, there are two, in fact, slides that's not built up properly. First of all, there are about 4.4 million IT professionals in India. And currently, there are about 600K who are working in cloud, but the actual demand in 2021 was about 8,23,000. So there was a shortfall of almost about 200K. And in the next 3 years, this shortfall is going to grow by almost 4x, which means that the demand for cloud professionals is going to be almost about 800K. Which is the gap which is existing right now. This is a recent study carried out even by IDC, where they say that barely about 35% of the enterprises have people who can actually, manage, support, and troubleshoot cloud. The remaining 65% or do not have even people who can do that. So we are now into a 1.5 meter economy, and we need to actually see how we can manage cloud basically. You will also realize that, IT has taken a drastic change. It has moved from the back room to the boardroom. And there is a big requirement specifically coming out for cloud. Even the Gmail or the Hotmail that you use is practically on the cloud. If you just go today and do a search, just say in a Naukri.com or an Indeed.com, you will see that the number of positions for cloud are anywhere between 60,000 to 80,000 jobs. And that's for, all kind of jobs. Even for freshers, you'll see anywhere between 100 to 300 jobs. And there's a huge requirement specifically which is coming up for cloud. But what exactly do we mean by cloud? Look, cloud means that you're offering on-demand delivery of, say, computing power, your, databases, your applications, and other IT, services which you have using the internet, and you do a pay per use. So in simple terms, say when your college admission is happening or when your exam results are happening, you do not need to worry about having additional servers. If you plug them over the cloud, actually all that can be taken care of. So there's a big requirement specifically of cloud. Just to share another example with you how cloud operates, you will see that clouds, practically has what are called as regions and availability zones. So across the world, AWS has about 25 regions and a large chunk of availability zones. So if you recall, we were recently seeing the IPL matches which were happening in Dubai, and these were being beamed to India. And you saw that there was no lag, in the display or in the streaming that happened. And that actually happens because of what are called as edge kind of computing, which are these cloud fronts. You'll be happy to also note that India is going to have a new region. Currently, it is in Bombay, and there'll be a new region which is going to come up in Hyderabad by mid of this year. So as more and more regions and availability zones come up, the latency actually drops down, and you can get very good bandwidth and streaming of all the services that you require over the cloud. Now, one aspect that what we have done is to bridge this gap is we have come up with the AWS Academy initiative, for which all of you are a part of. The role of AWS Academy is to provide, the online content, the practical hands-on experience on the AWS console. You're given various assessments to check them out, and then there are large-scale projects which you can do to get that experience, working similar to use cases what are there in the industry. There are different courses which are offered. They start right from the basics of cloud to machine learning, to data centers, to engineering operations, go up to associate levels of architecting, which is on the enterprise side, software development, or the troubleshooting, maintenance, or data analytics and machine learning, natural language processing. So all these courses are available for your students to undertake and get gainfully employed within the industry. I want to delve out here now on our partner. Our partner in arms is Wipro. Wipro, in fact, is a premier consulting partner. They run multiple AWS competencies. They have over 5,000 AWS certified people. They have almost 250 customers on AWS, over 40 solutions on AWS, and they have a very balanced portfolio. In fact, Everest had recently declared Wipro as the system integrator leader in 2021. In fact, Wipro has also, in partnership with AWS, launched something called the AWS Wipro Launchpad. Now, this specifically is a multidisciplinary co-innovation center where you have industry domain experts coming in and working on solutions for specifically all kind of customers. So I want to, spend the last slide talking about how Wipro is actually working with customers. So just to tell you, they have a thrust on 4 areas. First of all is in terms of customer experience. They're looking at personalization, conversational interface. For example, Wipro has come up with a product called Auto Insights, where they're specifically working with various customers. Mahindra FirstServe has been one of the premier customers, where they have got the small basic car to now become a connected car, a smart car. They're also working towards improving, I would say, forecasting better supply chains through AI-based demands. They had recently tied up with Schneider Electric, and they have ported the entire SAP on AWS cloud. There has been a process where Wipro is looking at giving faster decision making, especially and transitioning from reactive to predictive. Example for that is the digital first finance insurance company, where now earlier the amount of time it took to retrieve data was almost about 8 days. It has got shortened by almost a day. And finally, because Wipro tends to innovate, they have a very strong R&D and solution focus. They focus primarily on innovation and their core competency, which is to bring about a competitive advantage with their customers. So I'm going to stop out here and give it back to Shubhajit, who is going to invite our esteemed panelists, Mr. Ramchandran, Mr. Mohan Kumar, and Mr. Shripad. But I thought it will be good to give you a fair idea of the fantastic work that Wipro is doing. And thank you very much, for listening to me. Over to you, Shubhajit. Shubhajit?
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you.
Over to you, Ramchandran, sir. You can just carry on.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hey, thanks, Lokesh. And hopefully my screen is visible to all of you, right? And Lokesh, you set the context, and some of it probably to this esteemed audience. Good morning to all of you, to all the students as well as the faculty. It gives me pleasure to address this audience. As Shubhadeep mentioned, my name is Ramachandran. I head the full stride cloud services for the company, and responsible for driving the cloud agenda that we are actually driving to a lot of our customers, and really making a good social impact that we are actually seeing in the industry. So one other good focus that I have been also contributing is to be part of the NASSCOM Future Skill Initiative as a working group member, and to really look at in terms of how do we really bridge the skill gap, and to really make students like yourself in line with what the industry needs are. So what I'll probably cover in the next 25-30 minutes is to just give you a quick rundown of Wipro, probably in about 5 minutes, right? Most of you are aware of who we are, right? As a company, we just completed our 75 years of our inception in terms of as an organization, as to how we've been able to really move from what we started with as a vegetable oil company to being one of the leading IT provider globally, right? And today we have our overall revenue is about 8.5 billion, touching to about 10 billion this year, right? And we serve close to about 230,000 odd employees that we currently are having, with bulk of it in multiple nationalities, right? Serving about 130 odd nationalities that we have, with about 67 countries. So if I just quickly get to, as a company, one of the key things that we've always lived the spirit of our values has been in terms of really making sure that the spirit of Wipro is uncompromised, right? So one of the big thing that our founders, Azim Premji and Rishad, have always inculcated into any Wiproite is to actually have unyielding integrity in everything we do, right? So we've been making sure that the work that we actually do to our customers is clearly with passion. We treat each person with respect, and be a global corporate which takes the responsibilities to make sure that we are adding a lot of social impact to this community as well, right? So that's been the value, and uh, one of the key things culturally that we adapted after our new chairman Rishad took over 2 years back was also to inculcate the habit in all of the Wiproites, right? To really focus on five key principles, and this is something that is done from the top down, right? And we feel that it is very important to show that empathy, and to make sure that the way we actually demonstrate stewardship and building trust is very, very key when you actually start delivering value to our customers, right? So for us, these five habits is more or less ingrained into every Wiproite that actually joins us, right? And the first three is also very, very critical, which is about being respectful and responsive and always communicative. I'll quickly get into, a lot of you are aware, obviously, as a company, one of the key things that we always try.
So we are not able to hear your voice properly.
Virup, we can hear it. Possibly you need to go on mute.
Okay, fine. Okay, okay, fine.
Yeah, audio is fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the key things that we've been always focusing is to promote equality. And as a company now being global, we have about 74% of our employees which are very local to the region that we actually serve. And as I said, about 135 odd nationalities. Our gender workforce is increasing with increased diversity, as well as making sure that are focused with unbiased that we have is almost about 81%. Now, all of you are aware the last 2 to 3 years have been very, very, I would say, stressful to a lot of us across the community. As a company, as Azim Premji Foundation, we've lived through that and made sure that our response to COVID-19, whether it is with respect to the way we have actually served the healthcare professionals, taking one of our campuses in Pune and converting that into a COVID hospital, converting our large canteens into kitchens to actually serve the migrant laborers as well as the needy, working very, very closely in the remotest part of India to actually really vaccinate. And we've been fortunate enough to be working on ground into the remotest areas to help almost about 73 million odd people to get vaccinated as we were actually helping them through the Azim Premji Foundation. So, as a company, we are proud enough to be named as the most ethical company for the 10th straightforward year, right? So, these are some of the key aspects of what you would see in a company like Wipro, because ultimately it is all about in terms of the value and the ethos that our chairman is actually putting together, right? And as a part of his contribution to the philanthropic, he is one of the leading person that has provided, and every profit that we actually have, 67% of that profit goes back to the foundation that is helping the social cause of this country, right? So I'll take a leave of this particular presentation, and obviously Lokesh laid a very good foundation of providing an understanding of cloud. One of the key things that all of you are aware that uh, the impact that cloud has actually created and help many industries to stay afloat in the pandemic was because of the fact that many of the enterprises quickly reimagined. Nobody could have actually imagined that a lot of us have now started working remotely. Our schooling has already been done online, right? So there's been a significant amount of shift because of the disruption that was forced, and that is all because that the way the applications have actually started now getting leveraged. They've started utilizing a lot of underlying infrastructure that the cloud is able to provide, basically, right? So if you look back, so this is a very simple example of how an infrastructure as a service gets really deployed, where a portion of it is actually managed by providers like AWS, and there are areas that probably you would have a Wipro kind of a company that comes and manages for the customer, right? That's one on the dark blue. Now, as you keep proceeding further, you start building a platform where you typically tend to bundle including the operating systems as well as the platform at runtime. But there is only focus around really working on creating those applications, leveraging some of these services that are already being provided. Now, lastly, the software as a service is typically where you tend to bring in everything except the configuring of the application. So all of it is today the way cloud has actually helped in innovating industry. Now, this is a study that NASCOM along with Darup had actually done. One of the key things that we have looked at is every industry has a varied degree of adoption levels that cuts across the infrastructure as a service, the platform as a service and a software as a service, but what you see, the various use cases that are getting built in are nothing but that is having a direct impact on end users like yourself and myself, right? So that's been the way the adoption has actually brought in. And as Lokesh mentioned, that these adoption is also going back to the fact that Lokesh had put certain numbers. There is a significant supply demand with respect to the kind of skills that are needed over the next 4 5 years, right? Now that skill demand that you start seeing will become even more increasing as the adoption level starts to exceed, right? So from that perspective, if I really look back, there are a lot of the complexities in terms of the kind of work that actually happens for a specific cloud engineer. Now, each of those development areas will cut across whether you would like to do development, architecture, DevOps, or security. Now, the complexity of each one of it will go back based on experiences. So, one of the key things that providers like AWS have actually been working very closely is to really define those job roles and job families aligned to the expertise, so that some of the trainings and the certifications that we actually inculcate becomes much more meaningful to where the industry is actually being driven to, right? And this is exactly the way the demand gets changed. And around 68% of these high complex demand are there because of the way the customers have actually started spending on their PaaS and IaaS layer. Okay. Now, if I quickly summarize this, in India, if you look back in terms of the core industry where the supply is, IT services providers like us, as well as some of the larger startups that are there, which are online in nature, are all leveraging today cloud and cloud infrastructure. So there are industries that have started adapting, like BFSI, manufacturing, healthcare, and others as well, right? So you start seeing that this is going to be concentrated on a few set of industries, but these will become even more prevalent as adoption starts increasing. Now, at Wipro, one of the key things to adapt to make sure that we are able to get to this bandwagon, we made sure that we are bringing together all the groups that serve our customers with cloud skills, and also increasingly putting our effort in building the talent pool that is able to meet that is able to address this high demand, right? So as a company, we committed to about $1 billion investment in building these capabilities around cloud technologies, and also looking for really extending our engineering capabilities that we have with our full stack cloud services, right? A portion of that you would have heard about, that this year we are hiring from the colleges close to about 25,000 fresh graduates that are coming from the campuses, getting into our cloud studios, where we are actually helping them to get themselves trained and make them very ready for what we would require us to leverage them into a lot of our engagements that customers are actually asking us, right? And that's the kind of the demand gap that we will have to actually fill in. Um, Going back to what Lokesh already alluded, it's very, very critical that partners like AWS, which has been the early mover of cloud way back in 2003, 2004. And if you had seen the way the systems in Amazon are already built in, a lot of it is the trend setter for a lot of new areas that customers have actually started adapting. So as a company, we've established this almost about a decade back. We do have now 10,000 odd strong workforce that actually works for our customers in the AWS business group that focuses on driving digital transformation, leveraging the AWS basically. And quickly, I'll not repeat it what Lokesh mentioned, but it's important that our relationship is helping us to actually really start innovating and building those innovation through the credentials that we are actually bringing together, right? So each of the credentials that you actually see is a badge for us that provides us the confidence that we have the right talent, we are the right partner that can actually help AWS be successful in terms of delivering business outcome and value to our customers. Okay, so as Lokesh mentioned, we are touted as a leader in this particular space, and our launch pads that we have actually done is a co-creation immersion environment, right? That we typically experiment this with our customers. We launched this in India. We took that to Brazil and Australia, and this year we will actually be launching in US and Canada, right? Because that's something that will actually help us to bring teams together and be able to really ideate and creating certain world class products that our customers will be able to be benefiting, and as well as the engineers like yourself has an innovative space of thinking for extending these creations. So this is in a nutshell of how the launchpad is being leveraged. So so one of the things that I wanted to actually showcase to you, obviously since the video we have some challenges, technical challenges in playing the video, as I was actually highlighting that as a company we are here to ensure that we not only help in scaling and being able to provide value to various individuals that we have because of highly ethical as well as integrity being the core, but we also take pride in terms of making sure that we're making a deep impact to the society as well, right? And that's in a nutshell that I wanted to actually talk about. So one of the things that I wanted to actually also highlight is that as many of you are part of the 2023 batch, right? We have been working now very closely with AWS in making sure that the curriculum that we are actually trying to put together for the certifications that are there, we are making sure that you actually start becoming ready for what the industry would want you to actually start getting upfront, right? And that's what is the focus, and would be happy to have any of the questions that you have, and wishing you all the best in your current semester, and would love to hear from you. Over to you, Shubhadeep, for any questions.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for highlighting all the engagement Wipro and AWS. We have lot of questions.
So, Ramu sir, I have picked up some of the questions. They are asking how do we actually get enrolled for an early level talent with Wipro? How do they join? What is the assessment pattern? And who all are eligible for these kind of assessments? What are their pre-eligibility criteria? If you can address those.
Yeah. So if you go to our campus site, right? So there is a very clear pre assessment pre requirements that are there, right? And that pre requirement very clearly showcases that there is a specific, I think so, 60% GPA that you have to actually score in most of your semester exams, right? As well as in 10th and 12th. We go through and call you for a specific online exams that would actually have both aptitude and group discussions, right? And based on that, we are able to actually get you through the group discussion, and then look at in terms of how the offer can actually be rolled out. What we are also trying to do is for many of you, we've actually created what we now call it as National Talent Supply Examination, right? Which is an online talent search that we have actually done globally for the entire country, right? And not necessarily that you need to actually go to every campuses. Each one of you can actually take it up, and then we've been able to actually offer that. So that's been the way. This year we've actually been able to offer to about 25,000 people, and that will continue to happen as we're moving into the next year as well.
So there is also a question that is there any hardcore demand in terms of you're looking forward to IT or CS as a special branch, or you are uh, enabling this opportunity to all the other core branches?
It is for all the four branches actually. Moon, you want to take it up?
Yeah, it is basically what we call is circuit branches, electrical and electronics, electronic communication engineering, and CS. And these days we also see AI and data science sort of thing. So we are open for all the circuit, and not necessarily even mechanical engineers. We have seen in different countries, sorry, different part of the country. As long as they have programming languages and if they're able to clear, we are open for any engineering professionals.
Mohan sir, there is a question pertinent to, do you also look for interns?
Yeah, again, we have a set of process. Again, there are many criteria for that, and they have to reach to their placement, and we will go through them. There is definitely the process. Yes, there are opportunities for internship, but it has to come through the placement. The college has to initiate that.
There's another question in terms of programming skills. They want to double click on that. Are there any specific programming skills that Wipro seeks from the candidates?
Yeah, Ramu, you can go. You're on mute, Ramu.
Okay. So obviously, we would definitely require the top programming skills, right? So I see from the colleges, the basic skills that a lot of them will have is on C and Python, right? Okay, that becomes a foundational. But when we actually get them to the campuses, we look at in terms of if they are already having Java or C++, right? Or any of the other programming languages that can actually give them an edge in really understanding in terms of how, based on the problem statement that is being provided, how do they actually go about implementing that, right? So basics, at least on one of these four or five programming languages that I talked about, will become an added advantage for them. So this actually becomes the starting part of it. But to do the top up, the cloud skills is also now becoming an added advantage, and that's one of the reasons that we've been working very closely with the AWS and Lokesh's team to really see if we can actually get all of you to be upskilled while you're there in the campuses itself, because that becomes an integral part of how we actually take it further.
Thanks, Ramu sir. That was quite insightful. One of the questions they have asked is, what is the roadmap for a person who joins your AWS full stride cloud unit? So how does an individual grow out there?
A great question. So obviously, we've started this new thing called Campus to Studios. Okay, so this is one of the key initiatives that we realized that in the past, what used to happen was you would have completed your education, right? You would have joined us after completing 8 semester, right? And we actually get you into the campus. The first 3 months would actually go in for a lot of the trainings that we typically tend to provide you. Then we actually take you through the online, the hands-on project experiences for which you would actually be groomed and mentored as a shadow, so that the seniors will actually help you to get you up to speed on some of the project-based trainings, right? And that would actually then help you to become much more productive in terms of delivering value to customers, right? So it was an activity that was more or less taking close to about 6 to 8 months for us to actually get that right. And when somebody joins in that, you join as a system engineer, right, or a developer, right, and you actually take your journey towards becoming a senior system engineer and a lead, and then get into specifically taking up a role of an architect or a lead architect, right? And that's the kind of a career path that gets shaped up in in any of your current work that you were actually doing. But what we realized was, with cloud coming in and with innovations that are actually really getting scaled up, and a lot of the a lot of them are now becoming much more innovative. We are now trying to drive more of a culture of an engineering led culture, which is more capability driven rather than experience driven, basically, right? So one of the areas that we've been focusing on is to really groom yourself in the sixth semester itself. When you actually get selected, when you actually get selected in your in the campus, as soon as you actually get selected in the campus, we typically work along with your placement officers and see if we can actually help you to get yourself groomed in your final year projects, right, and do internship with us. So we typically tend to give around 30 odd percentage of the people that right for you to actually do certain internships and the projects, right, that will help you to actually start gaining much more insightful, and that's one of the reasons that we are also encouraging to actually have many of you get trained on skills like AWS, right? So that when you actually come to the campus, you are coming along with a lot of hands-on knowledge, practical use cases, and how you actually be able to drive it, right? So you are able to actually get this 6 months in advance and start becoming much more meaningful in terms of the way you would like to actually deliver value, right? So that's been the way we put together. Now, what it has also resulted in is an engineering culture, right? So we're trying to create a cadre where you actually are able to build this through an engineering lead, engineering manager, and engineer director kind of a culture, right? Because that helps you to create really new products and platforms that are becoming much more innovative, right, and much more impactful.
This is a question for Mohan sir. Sir, some of the students have written, we understand marks which are secured in the semesters, but why is 10th and 12th marks also evaluated by Wipro?
No, that is a standard requirement across all companies. If you see, the whole idea is being consistent in academic orientation. That is true to any other company, like any product companies. Everybody is asking the same. So we are just setting, we are being uniform across.
Okay. So Ramos sir, there's one general comment. A lot of people moving to cloud, but is cloud secure? So any thoughts on that?
No, I think so. It's a very very valid question, right? And obviously, if I really look back, uh, in the past, obviously there were a lot more of concerns around security, around data, around sovereignty, right? And really looking at whether cloud can actually really be. But what I see now is that with a lot of uh, the um, the guardrails that have been put by enterprises, and being able to make sure that you are able to utilize the nodes in a much more secured way of putting cloud security as the paramount for any enterprises, basically, right? So I think so. What has happened now is that every cloud providers like AWS itself, the focus on security to make sure that you're actually providing that kind of guardrails is actually becoming much more stronger, right? And today the confidence level of enterprises putting any applications on cloud is more safer than what they're actually trying to see in their own enterprises, because of the fact that you do not have a mechanism to trace it back, basically, right? So I think so there is definitely a significant change in the directional thinking of many enterprises, because one of the point that has actually happened is any company that had very stringent old ways of conservative thinking, the pandemic has really impacted them, and for some of them they have already vanished off, basically, right? They were not able to recover from the agility, from the innovative nature of how they had to actually regroup when the pandemic had actually struck. But uh, companies that were forward looking, companies that were thinking in terms of putting innovation at the core, they've been able to really strive hard, right? So for me, that's very critical, as long as you are able to provide that kind of a visibility.
So there's one question on why do you require global certification. So I'll give a 30-second input and then defer it to Mohan and Ramchandra sir to give their thoughts. So look, global certifications are basically benchmarks which are required by any industry. So it's always good that if you have a global certification, your chances of getting recruited, first of all, are extremely high. Number two, when you go and join the company will always flaunt the fact that they have so many X percentage of people who are globally certified, which are required for that project. So I would recommend every student to go in for global certification, and also assume that today you're starting as a fresher, but 2 years down the line, you and your peer are working in the same division, but you have global certifications, chances of getting promoted are higher. I request Mohan sir to also uh, provide some insight, and then over to Ramu sir.
Yeah, see, certification is nothing, something not new. It has been there for last 3 decades. Whether it could be project management, architecture, or it could be Java. When Sun Microsystems had Java certification engineers. So this is an evolving thing, and today's emerging technology. And in fact, customers are demanding, right? When we place high quality resources for projects, so it gives a complete deep dive understanding of each of the facets of AWS cloud. So it is very important for. It's like any, if you see a doctor specialist, if you look at them, they always attend seminars, conferences, their own certification, just to get that professionalism and the deep knowledge in the subject area.
No, I think so. So if you really go back and really look at it, if I have to really get to that volume way of really looking at who among the two I have to actually differentiate, right? One is obviously, do you have an ability to do it on hands-on and be able to actually prove? But that doesn't mean that I need to actually get certified. But if I have to actually make a start of how you actually first learn, how do you actually take that learning and put that into action, and then be able to actually drive that action to make sure that the learnings are actually being really validated by an approving authority. And in this case, obviously, AWS becomes an approving authority because it actually is standardizing the way they are able to actually bring in all the various people, right, against a specific set of expertise that is going to be there, right? So for us, that is actually becoming an industry benchmark now.
So there's one question with respect to the fact that is programming mandatory, or if they're good in AWS, there's still an opportunity to get a job.
Yeah, so I think so. It's a very valid question, but it's very important for all of us to understand, right? What is AWS, right? So obviously, AWS is a platform on which you can actually configure, but ultimately, even for making AWS to work, you need to have a programming language. Like for example, for leveraging serverless in AWS, you need to understand the AWS Lambda, right? It is again a programming language, basically, right? So it is important that irrespective what programming language that you have, the logic on which you would want to actually attempt to do it is needed. Okay, now how to what level that we will have to do, and how much of it is more of configuration, and how much of it is something where you have to actually really put your mind to it, that all depends on the nature of work that will come through.
So there's another question asked in terms of the advantage of doing AWS certification vis-a-vis other OEMs. So the choice resides with the student, but just to share with you that AWS has the highest market share, and majority of the projects which are carried out right now are predominantly on AWS.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I think we have covered majority of the questions which are there. I would request Abhiroop and Shubhajit if there's anything else which may not have been answered, to bring it to our visibility, and then we can wind up because we're just near the hour.
Thank you, Legacy. I think there are some questions from the students regarding the AWS access. So, students, please be in touch with your faculties. Your colleges are already AWS Academy. If you want to do this, please in touch with the faculties. They will guide you. And this AWS academic courses are also accredited by AICT, so it will be treated as AICT intensive. So please be in touch with the faculty. Still, if you are having any issue, please feel free to reach out to EduSkills team members. They will guide you because some questions we got how to enroll to the AWS Academy. We'll help you out on this. Aviruf, any questions you have? You have gone through any questions? I think this is the question.
No, I think all the questions are answered perfectly, and I think the session was very interactive. So uh, I don't see further questions and queries from the candidates. So it's good to do a handover, and we can actually wind up the session.
Okay. Thank you all. So I think we'll go for a last round to everyone, to a last message to the students. So for their career in Wipro. So I'll start with Ramu sir. So last message to the students and faculties from your side.
No, absolutely. As I said, as a company, there are few areas that we are known for, right? Unyielding integrity, being the most ethical company, and being able to actually really drive and deliver value to students like yourself is something that we strive hard. The testimony of it is I've spent 25 years in the company, and started as a fresher, right, and grown to do multiple things for the company, and been proud to be associated with this company, right? And I always say to be proud to be a Wiproite, and always say that anybody who actually joins us will be treated with the same empathy that we have had because of the nature of the culture that we carry.
Thank you, Ramu sir. So I'll request Mohan sir to give your last thought to the students, your advice and suggestions.
Thank you. Wipro is a great company for continuous learning. We provide opportunities, and just to let you know, we also have presence in tier one, tier two cities. We have also added satellite cloud studios, so the access is near. And then we are big in diversity and inclusion. With Women's Day coming up very soon, I'm sure there are plenty of opportunities, including some of the initiatives taken from AWS back to work and other stuff. So it's a great company. I have spent 16 years enjoying Wipro. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan sir. Over to Lokesh sir for your final thought on AWS and to the students.
Students should learn that's more to like
Lokesh, Lokesh, if you can go on your video, right? You can switch off your video. I think so. There's a little bit of a
Sorry. I hope this is better. So I would just recommend that students, should seriously evaluate Wipro from an employment perspective, because there's a huge amount of opportunities which are there. And as Ramu sir said and Mohan sir said, they are extensively, working on cloud, which is one of the priority focus areas. So best of luck to all the students.
Thank you, Lokesh ji. Thank you all for sharing your valuable time. Thank you, students, faculties, principal, TPOs for attending this event. And hopefully you have got the lot of questions and answers, whatever you are having. And hopefully you will encourage your students to go for AWS global exams and help them for a better career. Thank you all. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.